Welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I'm Taia. I'm your laid back guide to loving sports, and I'm so excited to have you guys here for our very first episode. I want to just take a moment and describe what this is going to be and how to interact. So each week we're going to be having a couple of episodes talking about sports that are coming up, games, events, things that you can get involved in, but this is also going to be an interactive experience for you guys. And I really want you to be able to ask me questions. I'm going to ask you guys questions. So go ahead, follow me on social media, and let's build that community together. And hopefully you'll be able to fall in love with either a new sport or have a new appreciation for sports that you already love. So let's get into it, right? What better place to start than at the end? The end of the season for the WNBA and MLB are coming up, and a tournament just... Gosh, there's nothing like it. I thrive on end of season play, tournament style options, and really that comes down to a couple of reasons. The best of the best are hopefully playing each other in the postseason, right? Whether it's your team or not, hopefully you're finding some good games. And that's why sometimes the Super Bowl can be disappointing if it's 40-0. You're like, I'd rather just have a good game, right? And that's really what I'm about. So if you haven't followed the WNBA or MLB, this is your chance. There's no better time than when the best of the best are playing each other. So the WNBA, let's start there. Women's National Basketball Association, also referred to as the W, is one of my favorite places to be. If you haven't catched a game, the tickets are not only affordable, but the event themselves are so fun. There's 13 teams this season with an expanding league really for the next 5 years. We've got teams coming out next year all the way I think through 2028. So let's get into it, right? What and how do the playoffs take place? So today being August 23rd, we've got a few more weeks of the regular season. And why is that important before the postseason? It's because these teams are really duking it out amongst each other to be in that top 8. And more than ever, this league has some of the best players playing at their highest level. This season has truly been unlike any other, and we've said that for really the last 3 seasons. You've had major players who have made this league bigger and better retire, such as Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi in the last couple of years, while bringing in a new age of enthusiasm with, for this season, Paige Beckers, previously Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, all the way up to Sabrina Ionescu. We have really fundamental players, foundation players that are just making this league so fun and entertaining to watch. So what does the postseason and end of season look like, right? So the end of the season, we've got teams, there's only 13 in the entire league. The top 8 teams are going to be the ones that make it into the playoffs. And the way that looks in the standings as of today for August 23rd are pretty interesting. So let's go over to our little magic board that I have over here. I'm going to attempt to put it right here and make it look super cute. So the standings right now, we have Minnesota at the top of the league with 29 wins and 7 losses, which is just absolutely crazy. And this is where things get really interesting. The number 2 through 5 position in this standings is absolutely insane. When you get down to the brass tacks and the numbers of everything is really where I find sports to just be super fascinating, and I think that way with baseball too. We'll get to that in a moment. But Atlanta is sitting in the number 2 standing position, right? With 23 wins and 13 losses. The number 3 team, the Aces, are sitting with 23 wins and 14 losses. And 4 and 5 are tied with the Phoenix Mercury and the New York Liberty, both having 22 wins and 14 losses. Deep breath. Those standings, with only just a couple of games left in the season, could dramatically change. If any of those teams lose an extra game or win an extra game, they automatically coordinate with their standings. So let's take the New York Liberty and the the New York Liberty and Phoenix Mercury play next Saturday. And they are currently tied. They will both have a game before then, but going into that game is going to be absolutely crazy as they are currently tied in standings. This is why I find sports so alluring. It's like every game, even at the end of the season, means something. You can really see the fight in these players come out, especially when you know why the teams are so integrated. So let's just take the Phoenix Mercury and the New York Liberty for a second. Let's start with coaching staff, okay? Let's start at the top. The New York Liberty coach is one of the most winning coaches in the entire WNBA history. She has won championships not only in New York, but in Phoenix, which is why this is so neat. She has a pull for the Mercury, not because she wants them to win, but because she has a relationship with them, right? She has a relationship with Phoenix. She has a relationship with the fans. Previously, she had a relationship with the players, right? She coached Diana Taurasi. She coached BG. She's been a part of those really big moments. She's coached, now on our team now, Bonner, who previously was a different team, but back in the day was with the Mercury at the same time as the New York Liberty coach. So that's just part of it. Then let's keep going. The New York Liberty coach not only coached the Phoenix Mercury at some point, but she's also Australian and coached Australia in the Summer Olympics of last year, where one of our team members at the Phoenix Mercury, I say our because that's my team, Sammy was a player for the Australian team. So her national coach is now a coach that she's going to be playing against, which is just so fun. She can see and knows Sammy's playing style. Sammy had a really long three when we had played them, I think not last time, but the time before. And you could see the coach's face just being like, I want to be mad, but like, that's my girl. Like, that was so good. And she did it kind of right by her, and that you could see that moment that they shared. And I think there's such a human, I don't know if it's a nurturing quality, but I just love watching women's sports because at the end of the day, you can see that emotion that they have with each other, which is really, really cool. Whereas in football, you're wearing helmets and it's kind of hard. But moving on, speaking of players, Natasha Cloud is one of my favorite players. She played for the Phoenix Mercury last season and had an interesting departure where I don't think there was some tension. And so the first time we played them this season, you could see that tension come to life. And it's really interesting to see her style and her fight against Phoenix. But then you have players like Sabrina Ionescu and Stewie, who are just powerhouses. When they are on, they are all the way on. It's like riding, if you're a bike person, it's like riding a BMW SR 1000 versus riding like a Suzuki. The power is just there. You can't, even in first gear, the power is, oh my God, they're so amazing. And their team is just getting better and better and better. So that game is going to be so fun. I will actually be not only posting a YouTube for that, but we will also be doing that game live in Phoenix. So go ahead and make sure you mark that on your calendar to join us for that. Moving on, in the number 6 position, we have another tight race all the way 6, 7, and 8. With the Indiana Fever winning 19 games and losing 17, Seattle Storm winning 19 games and losing 18, and the Los Angeles Sparks winning 17 games and losing 18, which is wild. Again, another really tight spot for those teams to change relatively quickly with the last couple of games of the season. Really trying to get their mark into that 8th position is the Washington Mystics, winning 16 games and losing 20. Now, the bottom 3 teams, the Chicago Sky, the Dallas Wings, and the Connecticut Suns, are all eliminated for the season, only having won 9 games, and 8 games for the season. And what's really interesting about that is, one, the Connecticut Suns last season were absolutely dominant. So to see them at the bottom of the league this year not only shows you how the league has swapped players around and how powerful everybody is, but it also shows you how much more talent we're getting into the league. Now let's get into postseason. If this season were to end right now with the standings as they are, let's just take number 1 being the Lynx and number 8 being the Valkyries. how would this play out? So the first round of the playoffs is a 3-game series, meaning it goes 1-1-1. So the first game goes to the team that has the highest standing, being the Lynx, being the number 1 seed, would have home court advantage for the first game. Then it would move over to the Valkyries, and then it would go back to the Lynx. Again, with it being a 3-game series, you only need to win 2. So the Lynx would have, ideally, 2 out of the 3 home court advantages. Now, moving into the second round, taking those same 2 teams, number 1 and number 8, again, it could be 2 and 6, or 2 and 7, 3 and 6, or 4 and 5. Whoever has that higher standing is going to have the first home game advantage. So for the semifinals, which is the second round, it will go 2-1, being a 5-game series. Let's take the 1 and 8 position as they stand right now. The Lynx would have the first 2 games at home, with the last 2 games being played at the Valkyries. If it goes to a game 5, it goes back to the Lynx. Now, here's where things get really exciting and start to look a lot like the NBA. Is in the finals, it will be a 7-game series going 2-2, 1-1-1. So what does that mean? So it means that the Lynx would have the first 2 games. The Valkyrie would have the next 2 games, again, having to win 4 out of the 7. Then it would go back and forth for the remaining 3 if it goes all 7 games. So, with that being said, a lot to look forward to. Let's get into the MLB. Major League Baseball! So I don't know if baseball to me is really fun math, but it is so entertaining for a multitude of reasons. Going to a game in person, a little less so, and I'm going to explain to you why. Baseball is boring. I get that. I get that for a lot of people. It goes slow. It seems like there's not a lot happening. But when you really start to dig into it, right? If you've ever seen the movie Moneyball, if you've ever talked to somebody like me, we will explain to you why baseball is so entertaining and why I personally like to watch it on TV. Within this little box for the hitter, there are several quadrants where you can throw a ball, where you can hit a ball, and it's pretty small. Not only are you trying to hit this ball in this really small, invisible square that nobody can see, which is why some people want robot umpires, because you can't see it. It's just there. You just have to know where it is, which is why I like watching on TV, because I need to see where the heck this rectangular square thing is happening. But then you take into account that the pitcher has different kinds of pitches. So what does that mean? Where they hold the ball and how they throw it. I'm not a pitcher. I've never thrown a ball correctly. I know that there's like a knuckleball, there's like a fastball. They have different pitches, right? Which is basically different hand positions on the ball and how the ball spins out. So you're holding it on the laces. How are you holding it on the laces? Which part? All this kind of stuff, which is why the pitcher will most likely be holding the ball behind them and be kind of tossing it around. Okay, that looks so odd. But, you know, if you're watching baseball, you'll see the pitcher reading the catcher's hands, right? Because the catcher needs to know what pitch is being thrown. So they have all these signals of, like, inside leg, outside leg, up, down. Like, you think, what the heck is this person doing just smacking themselves around? They're asking the pitcher, right? The pitcher has an idea of what pitch they want to throw. And it's the catcher's job, basically, to guess which one they want to throw, and so they're on the same page. Sometimes you'll see the catcher wearing nail polish, and that's just to make it easier for the pitcher to see what signals that they're throwing out. Sometimes the coach, which is called the manager, will tell the pitcher what kind of, or tell the catcher what kind of pitch they want. They'll be going to the pitcher. The pitcher will be like, nope, I don't want it. I don't got it. I don't feel it. That's not what the vibe is. Or they're just like, okay, let's go with that one. They then kind of bounce the ball around, feel for where they need it to go, and then they throw this ball. Not only do they throw this ball and a length of field that is really... Have you ever seen someone throw out the first pitch? Let's just say it's really hard to just even casually throw the ball to home plate. But they do it at such a speed that is absolutely mind-blowing. I hate driving 100 miles an hour. Could you imagine a ball being thrown to you at that speed? It's insane. Not only are you trying to read what kind of pitch is being thrown to you at 100 miles per hour, but they can throw a fastball in this corner, in this corner, in this corner, in this corner, in the center, out here, out here. They can throw it so many different places, and you have got to react in a split second how to hit this freaking ball. That alone is so enticing to me. Okay, out of all the pitches that this pitcher has, out of all the speeds, right, then there's one called the changeup, which is like where you're throwing it really fast and you kind of throw it kind of slow, and then the person's kind of like, okay, I'm ready to hit this thing really fast, and then it just drops at the last second. It is like riding a freaking roller coaster. I love it. It's so exciting. I'm going to take a deep breath. This is why I find sports so fascinating. But let's get into the actual postseason end of season for MLB, now that I've described roughly what baseball is to you. With 5 weeks left in regular season, there's going to be about 35 to 48 games, which is absolutely freaking wild. Shorten the MLB season. I just cannot care for that long. I just can't. I care at the beginning during spring training and at the beginning of the season. I totally forget what happens in the middle of the summer, one, because I'm overheated and I'm super freaking hot. And then I care again at the end of the season when, you know, it's October and everything's great and I'm having a great time. There are 2 leagues in MLB. You have the American League and the National League. This is the same if you were to take football with the NFL. You have the NFC and the AFC, right? In each league, you also have an East, a Central, and a West standing. So you'll have East Coast teams, Central teams, West Coast teams. Make sense? In the postseason, you will have 12 teams make it to the playoffs, which are just the top 2 teams from each of those East, Central, and West. You will also have a wild card series, which is best of 3 games, which will actually end at the end of September leading into October, which for most people know that is playoff month for MLB. And there's just nothing like it. Halloween, baseball, football, basketball, hockey. It's just a fun, there's just nothing like October and November. Really, the end of the year is just so much fun. Okay, then you have Division Series, which is best of 5, and then you have the Championship Series. Championship Series, which is not the World Series. Championship Series is just meaning who wins the National League, who wins the American League, just like you would have in football, just as you would have in basketball, right? Everybody has a championship, and then you go on, you get a trophy at the championship, and you go on to the real championship, the World Series, which is best of 7, starting at October 24th and ending potentially November 1st. So let's review so far. We've talked about the W, how their postseason's going to work, and how the end of the season is going to match up. We've talked about why I find baseball so fascinating, and we talked about their postseason as well. What's up next? On Wednesday, you can come back and be sure to find us talking about all things preseason NFL. Looking forward to the NBA season and the NHL season. Let's get into tennis. It's been one of my favorite sports in the up-and-coming years, and that is because of the young talent coming in, but also me finally understanding what the Sam heck is going on 95% of the time. Why does everybody have to be quiet? When can you cheer? What do all the lines mean? Who is this person? How do you pronounce their name? There's so many intricacies that go into tennis, which is why this tournament, the US Open, is so fun. First of all, if you've never been to New York at the end of August, early September, I highly suggest it. The flowers are in full bloom, the weather's absolutely incredible, and you've got some of the most amazing tournaments happening. Not only do you have great basketball games happening with the WNBA, as we had mentioned earlier, but you also have one of the most star-studded events of the year at the US Open. Whether you saw Kylie and Timothy, whether you saw Travis and Taylor, this is the place to be for celebs and for tennis lovers. Which, again, let's go into why I love tennis and why sports are so amazing. Ben Shelton is dating a girl by the name of Trinity Rodman. Trinity's dad is Dennis Rodman. Trinity plays for not only the U.S. women's national team, but she also plays in the NWSL, which is the women's national soccer league within the U.S. She's awesome, by the way. This is like the power couple of these two sports. It is absolutely amazing. I love seeing their interactions with each other. I love their young love. It is just, it's so good. Seeing them interact with each other at Wimbledon was so cute and so precious. Anyway, there's a couple of major tournaments throughout the year. You've got the Australian Open in January, which is Australia's summertime, so it's actually pretty fun to watch if you're in, depending on what hemisphere you're in. Then you've got the Roland Garros, which is the France major tennis tournament. Then you've got Wimbledon, and then you've got the U.S. Open. Those are kind of the major tournaments throughout the year, but that does not mean that those are the only tournaments your favorite players are going to be playing in. We just got off of the Cincinnati Open, which was crazy because you again had Sinner in the finals. He had some health concerns, ended up coming second to Carlos Alcaraz. Carlos is also an amazing young up-and-coming player, and I've absolutely enjoyed watching his style of play. Seeing him take down some really big power players has been, honestly, really entertaining. So, you've got a bunch of power hitters, right? Carlos, who we were just talking about, he won the major in France this year. And then talking about Sinner, he won Wimbledon and he won the Australia Open. So you're talking about these guys not only having won most of the major tournaments already this year, but still going at it in minor tournaments like Cincinnati, right? Then you've got the Geneva Open in Switzerland, which, oh my gosh, is just absolutely breathtaking. And you've had a forever favorite, Djokovic. I can't pronounce these names, okay? I'm so sorry if I'm butchering them. My name's Taia. People do it all the time. I'm so sorry, but my love for you is super strong. So let's focus on that. You've got some just really amazing players winning some awesome tournaments this season. So let's get into the U.S. Open, right? That's what's happening right now. So we've already had the first round, which kind of overlapped with the end of Cincinnati, which is really cool. You've got some really fun beginning tournament style of play where you've had Coco Gauff was playing with, of course, our favorite, Alex Morgan. And they have like this celebrity match, right? Where they wear these earpieces. They talk to you the whole time. And it just makes the game more approachable. It widens their viewership, right? People who like soccer are watching this, as Alex Morgan just recently retired. She just had her baby boy. It's just a lot of fun, right? Being able to have these crossed fields of interest. Again, if you're taking Trinity, who again is a soccer player, her relationship with Ben Shelton, it's just furthering that experience and having two powerhouse women like Coco and like Alex come together. It was really super fun to watch. So we've got our previous winner of the U.S. Open was Sinner. Can he go back to back? We don't know. It's going to be a super fun time to watch. We will be live commenting on some of those games as well as each round goes on. It is a longer tournament just because of how the brackets are shaped up. So let's talk about it real quick, okay? So the U.S. Open runs for 15 days and it's going to go all the way into September 7th with this Grand Slam being with 7 rounds. So each round, right, of the tournament, you're going to have different kind of blocks, right? So if you're looking at the scoreboard, hopefully I learned how to put this up here. You'll have each player, top and bottom. You're going to have different boxes based on different sets, which is also games, right? Match point, game point, things like that. So each break is a game. The match is the total thing that's happening, if I got that right. You'll have 3 rounds, basically, of trying to win by 2 and a minimum of 6. So you have to reach 6 points. The way you get a point, oh my gosh, this is going to be difficult. Stick with me. I promise I'm going to try and make this as simple as possible. Let's just start from the ground up. You're playing somebody. You score on them. That's 15. You play somebody, you score on them again. That's 30. You play against somebody, you get another point, sort of. You score against them, and you go up to 40. Why is it not 15? I don't know. you get to 40. You then have to score again to get the official point on your scoreboard. This is what the scoreboard looks like, right? So then you finally get 1. Okay? Then moving on from there, you will have to get 6 of those in order to win that bracket, right? That little box. If somebody ties you at 40, you go into an advantage, AD advantage to a certain player. And you kind of duke it out for whoever gets that point. Now, if let's say you get to 6, but the player has 5, you have to win by 2. So it'll go to 7 to 5, 8 to 6, so on and so forth. Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but you'll get it as you start watching it. It'll be 3 sets of that. Each round, then it'll go to 5. Then in your final round, the Grand Slam is 7 rounds, which is wild, and why tennis matches can take so long, but also so entertaining. Let's just recap a little bit of how the women's tennis has gone so far this year. The Australian Open, off of the cusp of the another Australian tennis match, Madison Keys won both of those at the beginning of January. She is an American, so that's pretty nifty. Then you go to France, where Coco Gauff won, another American, which we love to see. And then we head over to Wimbledon. Iga, I don't know how to say your last name, my love, Swiatek, has been killing it. Absolutely just murdering it. She also just won the Cincinnati Open, which rolls into our U.S. Open. She's amazing. I love watching her play. I love how smart she is. I love the way that she plays the ball into very intricate corners and then sets herself up perfectly, not only for the rebuttal, but for the next move. She seems like she's always a move ahead, which is really, really entertaining. So we will be live covering that throughout the week, throughout the rounds, as well as our WNBA and MLB games as we lead into Wednesday. Like I said, we will be covering preseason for the NFL, as well as getting ready for our NBA and NHL seasons. There is so much more to cover and only so little time. I'm so happy you were able to join us for the very first episode of Let's Talk Sports. I really want to hear more from you, so the questions that I'm going to send out to you guys this week are pretty generic, but they will get more specific. One, is there something that you would love us to cover in the next couple of weeks? Are there questions that you have either about the sports that I went over today or some of our next series sports, such as our NFL and NBA and NHL? Well, that's it. That's the end of the very first episode of Let's Talk Sports. That was such a blast. I'm so glad that you guys were able to join us, and I can't wait to kick the ball around with you guys next time.